Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're having a party here today over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube and social media channels. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday to have some fun, to get thirsty for pro wrestling. It is Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Polio Del Mar. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily here today.
Hey, good to be back. And wow, more cowbell. They asked and you delivered.
You know, I know what the people want. Obviously, you've heard the clamoring as well. God, I wish there was more cowbell on the daily. I had to bring it to the people. Thank you. I'm glad that you saw that, right?
Yeah, I couldn't not see it.
Yes. Well, we have a big show here today. A lot of news to get to. The chat room is already flowing here. We got Rob here. Good afternoon. Jacob, hello. Fellow wrestling fans, let's listen and talk all the haps with all the graps. I am pumped up. You know what? I'm not going to bring another comment up after that. That was
all the haps with all the grabs. That's good. Good job. That's wrestling marketing right there.
I like it. I'm a fan
of it too. I like it a lot.
It's great. So if you want to be part of the show, wherever you're watching us, jump into the comment section, leave a note. We'll throw it up here on the screen. If it's urgent, you can do a super chat. We'll make sure that gets up on the screen as well. But, hey, jump in. Braddock's in there. All he wants to know about is new stages. When are we going to get new stages? What's the deal with the unique sets for pay-per-views? That's all this guy cares about, Paul.
You know, I'm going to tell you, I've reached the age in my life where, like, stimulation, attraction, none of that matters. Consistency matters. Braddock, you are highly consistent, and that is very alluring to me as a co-host of this.
Put some respect. Polio, what up? Also, Daniel Price, no Houseman. All the chats with all the Pratts. You're welcome, Paul. So
I love it. Thank you.
I like this. Good energy. Good energy in the room today. I'm doing the bull dance. I'm feeling the flow. All right.
The bull dance?
Yeah, it's a reference to Happy Gilmore. You don't get that reference.
Well, I just thought it was related to having a cowbell. You're bull dancing now that you have a cowbell.
Hey, you know what? It's true. I love this thing. I got it for free at Warrior Wrestling. God bless. My girlfriend.
I'm not shocked.
Liz loves it. It's like her favorite thing that I have a cowbell around the house now.
You wear it so you can't sneak up on her?
I do. Yes, she makes me wear it around. She also branded me. It was really weird and kind of sexual. I don't know. Anyway,
that's usually so somebody doesn't steal you. And Liz, nobody's after him.
I apologize, Liz. I don't think she would have liked me saying that. Anyway, we got a great show. A lot of news. Obviously, the chat room is popping here today. Keep it going. We're going to get back to chats here in just a second. Before we get to any of the news and what's going on here today, I do want to take a second to send our regards out to Brian Knobs. He's in the hospital right now. He's got knee issues. It's the top news item on the site. He's got a GoFundMe out there right now if you can help him out. On just behalf of the Daily, Brian's been on the show a handful of times, and he runs Legends of Wrestling down in Florida and has been overly accommodating over the years, helping us get some really big names to the show and just in general helping us out with access. So if you've enjoyed this show and you want to support somebody that's supported us, I definitely want to let everybody go to the GoFundMe and throw some cash Knobs' way if they can, you know?
Yeah, I'll say this too. Also, when I was a teenager, this was before the Nasty Boys sort of exploded in popularity as they were wrestling in Florida Championship Wrestling very often. They were the champions multiple times. And I just, as a kid, had some incredibly wonderful conversations with them. They were always so accessible to their fans at that time and just very nice guys. So best of luck to Brian Knobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, who doesn't want to go to Pity City, right? You know,
I don't want to go to Pity City, but I really like the Nasty Boys.
I went there one time, and actually, it wasn't as bad. I was like, "Oh, you guys actually are not that nasty. You guys took a shower this morning. It smells like deodorant in here right now." So, not as bad as when Rikishi sat on my face. That was worse. So, take what you can get. All right. Also, we look at that face. That's a face of a man who wants to say something right now. We also want to send our congratulations out to Rebbe and Matt Hardy. Appear to be having their fifth child. Rebbe tweeted out the number 5. everybody's speculating. I just want to note that Rebbe gave birth to their fourth child exactly a month ago yesterday. Their son Maxwell was born in 2015, Wolfgang 2017, Bartholomew 2019. Ever was again born just in July. So there was only a month there where Matt and
Rebbe,
you know,
congratulations. Flip side of the coin, honey, do it one time just for fun. It doesn't always have to be about procreation. Good God, that poor woman.
That's a lot of babies. It's a lot of babies, and Matt just couldn't wait. So
I can't really say a lot because my mom is one of 8 kids, and they're all spaced pretty close. And my grandfather was one of 15. So exactly. And my mom was like, "There's going to be 2 of you, and that's going to be it."
Wow. Okay. Yeah, my mom same way. Only 2. Then that was the cutoff, right? That's about
done.
5, but I mean, by today's standards, 5, that's a lot of kids for somebody. So anyway, best of luck to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luck. You know, what I will say is this. Fortunately, their dad has been very financially smart with his career, very successful with his career. So they're going to be financially stable. It's not exactly the same as where you hear people say like, we've got a lot of kids and you're like, wow, I know it's going to be a struggle financially for that.
Also, I want to throw in here in the chat room right now, we've been joined by Isa, the New York City demon diva, who does some of our late night podcasts.
Love her.
Right?
Love her.
Wonderful.
Hilarious.
Want to thank you for joining. To everyone in the chat room, please be respectful, right? I don't know that marriage proposals, things of that nature, are maybe the kind of discourse that she's here for today. Let's talk wrestling. Let's have some fun.
Oh, I thought they were proposing to me because I'm like borderline available, but I'll consider it if there's like some kind of I don't know. You have to throw something my way.
Dude, I don't have a ring on it, but I got a cowbell around my neck and I got this brand on my butt. I'm
You're going to be single if you keep that line of conversation up.
Yeah,
you're going to be
like I'm a prize cattle. She bought me by the pound. Anyway.
She must have a really well-paid job.
Yeah, yes, because I'm a big guy. I've lost some weight, Paul. I feel like good about myself.
They're like, would these 2 stop the comedy routine? Can we please talk wrestling?
I guess. All right. What's going on here today? We got a big show. A lot of news. We're going to talk some CM Punk stuff here at the top. We have his co-star from Heels on the show here today. If you're listening to us in audio form after the news, you're going to hear Scott Fishman's conversation with Stephen Amell, Arrow, in the house here today. If you're watching us in video form, you want to watch that premiere of Stephen and Scott, head over to the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel, 1 p.m. EST, noon Central, and you can watch that and chime in and chat and love the show, right? Also, if at the end of the show for everybody, we'll dive in the mailbag. We're going to look at one of my favorite things in pro wrestling right now. Holy hell, I watched this video this morning and laughed my ass off. Poor, destitute Baron Corbin. What's everybody think about it? We're going to talk about it in the mailbag. News you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. We'll kick off with the biggest, buzziest news I think that is going to be this day and every day going into next week and maybe the week after. Let's talk about CM Punk and AEW. So Tony Khan was on Busted Open, and I think in the most explicit way he said CM Punk is going to be at Rampage next Friday. He said, I think everyone knows what to expect on the second episode of Rampage, which is titled The First Dance, and I expect that the anticipation will continue to build. What do you think of this? What do you think that this is a very interesting situation here, right? Like they're not promoting it, but they're not denying it. Like, how do you feel about the build here to Rampage next week, Paul?
To be honest, at this juncture, if they don't deliver us CM Punk and they don't deliver Daniel Bryan, there's going to be a revolt. You know what I mean? There will be a literal revolt.
Yes.
People have been looking forward to this now because it's the only thing people are talking about pretty much in the world of professional wrestling.
Yes.
And if they do not deliver, then people who've tuned in looking for that are going to be livid. Even the people who are traditional AEW fans, the ones who've been there since day one, are going to be pissed because it's been something that's been teased and teased and teased. And if we don't get it, it's going to be not good.
Yeah. CM Punk here not exactly denying the rumors. Over on Sunday night's event, he was asked if he was going to be at the first dance. He said, when was that? Let me look at my calendar. When did you say it was? It's the 20th? I think I actually may have to be doing a screening that isn't confirmed. So I probably shouldn't blast this out everywhere, but we're talking about doing a screening of an episode 3 of Heels at the AMC Theater in Chicago. That's one of the dates that's been proposed. So, I hope everybody is there, right? He's not gonna outwardly say it, but at the same time, I feel like if he wasn't gonna be there, CM Punk would be saying, "I'm not going to be there" explicitly, and that is not at all what he's doing here.
Yeah, I think what kills me about this in a strange way is that I think that they realize that they're getting more traction from just the tease and everybody talking about the possibility than they would if they outright confirmed. So.
Yeah, and I wish I had a better frame of reference for when Scott Hall made the leap to WCW, and like how many people knew that was happening and what the anticipation was. Because I've talked to Waltman about it on the podcast. It sounds like there was a pretty good chunk of like what was the smart wrestling fans at the time that knew Scott was heading to WCW. They just didn't know when he or how he was going to show up, right?
And there was also, we didn't have the kind of internet situation that we have now.
Right.
So it had to come through like word of mouth and gossip and all of these things. Now places like Wrestling Inc. and a variety of other sources will just sort of like regurgitate and sort of cycle this around, like it's the same information. We know that from some quotes from the Renee Paquette interview that we did. Like other places pick it up, and then one article becomes news everywhere simultaneously.
Well, and it's not just pro wrestling, and not to get off on like a esoteric conversation about what media right now, but it's it's every genre, right? It's politics, it's entertainment. Comicbook.com releases the trailer for a movie, and then all of a sudden a million other movie sites report the comic book exclusive of it's. That's just the nature of the beast right now. Everything's just
absolutely correct.
We also have some comments here. I want to put some respect, saying I said before CM Punk was going to be at Rampage. I got tomatoes, SMH. Yeah, I mean, I guess we just got to a situation where it was boy who cried wolf so many times that, like, yeah, there were a lot of people that maybe did see this coming that, hard to buy into, hard to believe, that this was actually coming to fruition.
Well, the one thing that I will say, I thought that he might be at the very first one, which is coming up. Is that tomorrow? The very first one's tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is the first Rampage. I'll be hosting a party at Replay Lincoln Park. You should all come out. It's absolutely free. Anyway, yes.
So now they're teasing him for the second one. I thought that this would be the ideal way to kick off the series if you're gonna do this, But they've got that tomorrow's card is stacked anyway, so I think that we're gonna get something fantastic regardless.
I just don't, there's so many moving pieces here, right? Like, they wanted Punk, they want to do it in Chicago. They already made, arrangements to be in, Pittsburgh or Philly or wherever they're going to be. So whatever, we're going to get Punk and all that. I think that's all that matters. Antonio Garcia, JR is going to deliver a fake CM Punk and Daniel Bryan like he did with Razor and Diesel. How great would that be? Right?
Man, I can't believe the fact that we still remember that after all these years. What a flop that story was, and we still talk about it.
So on the note about what's going to go down at Rampage tomorrow night, we found out on Dynamite last night that AEW World Champion Kenny Omega and Christian, that's going to be the main event of All Out on September 5th for the AEW title. But tomorrow night, on the debut of Rampage, they're going to have another match, but this one for the Impact World Championship. This all seems very weird to me. What do you think about the way that this is playing out, Paul?
In a way, it doesn't seem weird to me. If they choose to somehow, some way split these victories, this is a great way to get that Impact World title off of CM Punk, off of Omega.
Right.
Put it on somebody who they could ship over to Impact for a while to drop that belt with nobody really giving a shit.
Right.
And return it back to that company. But I will tell you this, the fact that the Impact Tag Team titles were defended last night on AEW and Rampage is kicking off with an Impact World title match. This is the first real signs of significant benefit I've been seeing for Impact. They're talking about the titles finally in a way that seems glowing.
You know, maybe I've got my tinfoil hat tied on a little too tight, but I mean, I kind of wonder if Tony has an investment in Impact now. Like the tone definitely changed recently.
100%.
And I know Tony's looking to like have these expansive archives and go to a streaming network. And this thing is Impact. I don't know. I mean, I feel like a Swan song you could maybe get this thing for right now. The relationship is very
a Swan song you could buy Impact. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think that Impact would be as you think you could. I don't know how much value Impact really brings at the moment. I mean, to Anthem, I guess like they've built their. I don't know. I don't really see Impact as that valuable, but I do think that it's very interesting how Tony is now all of a sudden leveraging this brand in a way that he hasn't been doing as of late. And I do wonder if something has changed in the relationship.
Well, I think that something obviously has. We don't know what that would be, but Scott D'Amore on commentary last night, which I don't particularly enjoy, but Scott D'Amore on commentary last night, the Impact Tag Team titles defended. We've got, the Impact World title being defended on the kickoff of the AEW Rampage show. Yeah. So things are definitely, but I think a big part of it, honestly, is if you are going to truly sell the idea of this forbidden door and that you, Tony Khan, are the forbidden door and you're opening all of these things, showcasing what that means other than in just verbally like, oh, I'm the forbidden door, showcasing it by having the Impact World Tag Team titles on your show, showcasing it by having the Impact World title. And of course, obviously the New Japan title being defended, all of these, and Camille being on there as the NWA World Women's Champion. All of these things really cement the idea that AEW is the forbidden door where all of these places can converge. And I think that there's something really compelling about that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't grab me like the same way I guess it grabs other people. Like I'm happy that wrestlers could get more opportunities and stuff like that, but I do feel like there's enough talent that AEW has right now where some in-house stories to push along the talent they have that's not necessarily just like the concept of a place where all these companies can work doesn't grab me as much as like emotional storytelling. I guess would be my response to that.
I don't disagree with you. I think that what would make the situation a little more compelling is if we actually were getting to see like these matches for other places' titles have a little more meaning within AEW.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that this Omega. So I tried to scroll back and I was trying to find out who said it, but there was somebody who very bluntly in the comment section said what I'm thinking, which is that the all-out main event of Christian Omega, it feels like a swerve, right? It feels like a swerve to me. Why do the match on Rampage, for a world title, and then run it back and do it again just a couple weeks later? It just doesn't make sense in my head. There's got to be some kind of scenario where I think Christian does take this title off of Omega. I think he's going to win this Impact title. I think Kenny probably then goes like nutso, right? The whole Elite comes down. They beat bloody, put this guy through a table. White Knight to save the day. Music hits. Out comes CM Punk. Maybe he's got, maybe it's just him, one-man band with a 2x4. Maybe he's got Adam Page there. I don't really know, right? But I see that still as the all-out main event. I don't buy the idea that Christian Cage and Kenny Omega is going to main event all out in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever.
Well, I think that I don't think that there's anything wrong with that sort of like idea that you just presented. I think that, promising it going into the weekend and then all of a sudden, if it happens the way you described, Christian is out of action because he's just got such a beatdown or whatever the case may be,
Right.
So, and it just removes him from that title picture at the moment.
Yeah. So that's a look at AEW's main event picture right now. Christian in the main event, like he got like booed. Did you hear that? Like when they announced this match, like people were like, no. And then there were like CM Punk chants. I kind of feel bad for Jay right now. Like by no fault really, I feel of his own, but wrong place, wrong time. I feel like this guy's getting heat, just because of the situation he's in.
Well, yeah, I think that, the unfortunate scenario that they're in is, again, this is, they've got so much going on, so many factors. and there's so much buzz about things that people who aren't even in the company on the television product at the moment that it's sort of overshadowing what's actually happening on TV.
We have Jacob Grandi here. If Christian beats Omega on Friday at Rampage, does that mean Kenny's going to lose at Triple Mania on Saturday? Yeah, it could be a trickle-down effect here. This could be the point where the belt collector loses his collection here very quickly, it would seem. You know, you get the Impact title off him, get that AAA title off of him. Now you're just down to the AEW championship at All Out. This is everything to him, his last, thing. It all feels like, I think that a lot of the observations we're seeing here are pretty spot on with the direction we're going.
Well, certainly so, because you have to imagine that these other titles outside of AEW, these companies will not necessarily want their champion losing to somebody else, and then trying to find ways to, that it's already bad enough that they're perceived as second fiddle, right? Like the last thing they want is their champion to have been beaten by other people first. It's like, let me take mine back and then move you forward so you can play out your final story.
Well, also coming out of Dynamite last night, Paul White, former Big Show, he got physical. He saved Chris Schiavone, the son of Tony Schiavone, who was getting beaten down by the Nightmare family. And then it was teased that a match between Paul White and QT Marshall could possibly be in the works here. Paul's big debut as an in-ring competitor for AEW. How did you feel about this segment, Paul?
I tweeted the cricket chirping. Like, if you're going to pull out Paul White and he's going against somebody that nobody literally gives a shit about, who just came off one of the most boring feuds and lost every single step of the way in his terrible, horrible feud with Cody, what is the benefit of this? Really, what is the benefit?
I didn't like how Chris Schiavone didn't fight back enough. Like, if this guy wasn't
didn't fight back at all,
it was like glaring, right? Like, it's just like,
yeah,
I'm gonna roll you in the ring. Stand up. I'm gonna put your arms. It just looked like shindy, man. Like, I thought it looked like shindy bad. It
was. And it's not like Chris Schiavone. First of all, I can't even believe we're talking about Tony Schiavone's kid here, right? But like, Chris Schiavone isn't like a small guy, you know what I mean? Physically, it wasn't like he was overwhelmed. It wasn't like when they were like, your son wants to be a wrestler. Like, usually when they do that angle, the kid looks like a teenager, right? So they're abusing. Like, this dude looked like a 30-year-old guy in the ring, like just now wanting to become a wrestler, and then like they're beating him down, and he's like, "Oh, Dad," it was bad,
dude. Yeah,
it was bad.
That's why I was like, I didn't like that he didn't fight back enough, just because I was like, physically, he just looked like a dope. I was like rolling my eyes. Like, I hate to use the F word, but I was like, that shit looked fake. Like, that looked not like competitive in any way. I really was not a fan of that segment.
I was not a fan of it at all. And, to me, I don't know. Like, they trotted out Arn Anderson's son a few weeks ago. They let him have a big win. They made him wrestler of the week in AEW. He didn't look kind of prepared for the big screen. This kid, I'm like, where are we going with this? I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, well, I like the idea here from who was it? MCASP. QT has Shaq fill in for him. Maybe at the last second, QT cowardly says, "I have somebody that you should really go up against," and it's Shaq, and we remove QT from the equation. Maybe hey, props. I don't hate it.
I would be more inclined that like QT have Camarado sub in for him, and Camarado actually be able to physically impose his will somewhat on Big Show, on Paul White. I think that for Camarado, just being able to slam Big Show would be something that's like, takes him to the next level in his career.
I think Camarado, Paul White, I'm kind of into that match, but it definitely seems to be the collision course for QT. Well, lastly here, coming out of
QT, by the way, stands for just quit trying. Just quit trying, Marshall. Like, stop.
Wow.
It's not happening.
Oh, dude, take out the blade, right? Like, cut me with a knife. Jeez,
Keep training. You're obviously a great trainer, but the people just don't give a shit about him. Like nobody bought into him at all, and that, frankly, that feud with Cody did him no favors.
So to be fair, the other side of the coin, Chaz Shaw here saying it was fine.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. Like I mean, I respect all perspectives. I just feel like, again, they want to obviously push QT in some capacity. I think because of his relationships with people behind the scenes. I'm sure he's actually a wonderful person. Like I don't want anything that my perception as a viewer to like, kind of say that I think something terrible about him. I don't. The audience has just not gotten behind him, and the way they booked him against Cody did him no favors. No. He never got a leg up, not even once during multiple weeks.
Yep. We also have here by the way, we're about to get some NXT news. What a great transition here. Vinny DiBenedetto, Candice LeRae is pregnant. Johnny Gargano made the announcement 2 hours ago. Congratulations to the happy married couple. I did not know that. That's great news. Obviously, Candice is going to probably not be competing in the ring here for a little while.
I'm looking that up. Is Candice LeRae pregnant?
I believe it.
I would believe it too.
Maybe I should look it up. Maybe I should.
I mean,
do my due diligence here as a journalist. That's a good point. As I waxed philosophical.
Our team is getting a little bigger. Johnny Gargano said, "The best is on the way." So Candice LeRae is indeed pregnant. Congratulations to the happy couple. Thank you for breaking that news for both of us, because we're sitting here on this broadcast not monitoring that. I think it's, in a way, so to speak, in a way, I think this is great because they've already played out this family unit. She could literally be on TV fully pregnant, like growing the way, right?
Yes.
They don't. They're already mom and dad to these two other wrestlers, so they could keep her on TV this entire time, and it plays perfectly into the story. Of course, that's if WWE doesn't come in and like basically pipe bomb the entire company and let everybody go momentarily.
Yeah, I don't know. Firing a pregnant woman during a pandemic. I guess.
Come on, they've done worse.
Maria had already had the kid, right? Or was she pregnant?
Yeah. No, she was long. That baby was like a year old.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk about NXT, man. They got some good news for the first time in a while here, viewership wise. WrestleNomics saying NXT did 751,000 viewers on Tuesday night, up 44.2 from the week before. Of course, they've been on Sci-Fi for 2 weeks during the Olympics. They did their most viewers since the May 4th episode, and this episode was tied with several others for the second best key demo rating since May. So good news for NXT. I think there was also a lot of rubbernecking probably going on last night where, the Wrestle Votes thing, there's a lot of tension backstage. There's been a lot of moving pieces. I'm sure there were some people just tuning in just to kind of see what's going on at that carnival right now.
Or people like me who are like, I mean, I watch all the time, but there was a definite sentiment while I was watching, like, wow, I don't know what I'll be seeing in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Like, this is something that's familiar to me. I love it and enjoy it. And they could be destroying it, any minute. So it's like people flooding the farewell tour.
Yeah. I hope that they just strip some of the comedy stuff out. Like, there's just too much between the way and the $1 million title stuff. Like, they're just trying to be too funny. And like they've completely lost their edge, I think, in the process of doing that. I definitely think that's a big factor in that direction.
Yeah, I think that they definitely do not have the that kind of like wrestler vibe that they did a year and a half ago. And I've been over the $1 million title situation since before it actually happened. So like I'm done with that as well.
Well, Bronson Reed, former NXT superstar, he got some attention on Twitter Wednesday night for a tweet he made on Tuesday night for a tweet he made during NXT. He tweeted a clip from The Simpsons where Elvis said, this show ain't no good, fired a gun at his television. So obviously Bronson Reed unhappy with the product, probably his termination. lot of fans responded to the tweet negatively, taking the tweet as a knock at his former employer. Of course, the tweet came as Odyssey Jones was defeating Trey Baxter in the breakout tournament. So that led fans to taunt Reed with comments about who the better big man of NXT is now. He then went on later to say, I love blocking accounts that are clearly bots. Sad thing is, it's probably people I know. And then he had a gif of Rihanna. And then last night, he tweeted out this grinding and violence every match, every moment is reality of, which if you take the first letters all separately, is give me Miro. So Bronson Reed hitting the keys here, I guess, trying to create some. I don't think he needed to. First of all, Bronson Reed's Bronson Reed. People were upset that he had been fired. They see a lot of potential in him. I think this was a huge misstep on his part to wade into these waters, Paul.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's one thing to, I feel like he's a sympathetic character. People liked him. He was coming off of like a really solid run. They'd done a great deal to develop him. And when I saw, for example, that he had been released, I was like, what the actual hell is going on here? He checks all the boxes that you want. He's a big guy. He's agile. He can do all these things. Then again, so is Keith Lee, and we know where that got him. But nevertheless, like, all of these great things, to take what would appear to be a pot shot at everybody who's left there doesn't ingratiate him to people. You know what I mean? Like, but at this, and I think that he would have done a lot better just sort of like steering clear of that. I have no problem with him being like, this situation is effed, like, and just the way he moved on so quickly, I applaud that.
Right.
Like, okay, fine, you fired me. Bye. I'm going to like focus my attention somewhere else. And I think that I think he's a major get for anyone. He's not at that level of a Daniel Bryan or anything like that, which actually in my mind makes him even a bigger get because there's so much untapped potential that people obviously see.
Yeah. I mean, Bronson Reed's a very valuable talent. Part of me thought too, when I was like, oh, it's not a good look. I think it was Dina Garofalo here put up the sour grapes is never a good look comment here. There it is. Yeah. That was my initial reaction to, is like, I just don't get this. But if you're jockeying to maybe go work for AEW, those guys rag WWE
incessantly.
And is this his way of showing like, I'm cool, I can do this, I don't have to sit here and be like everybody else? Is this like, is there another chess move being made here, I guess, when he says something like this?
I think that I want to remind people also that this is an individual who doesn't have the luxury of sort of waiting around for this stuff to play out. He's presumably here on a work visa that is going to be ending fairly soon because he was let go from the employer that filed for that work visa. So he needs something to happen fast, or he's going to be back in New Zealand. You know what I mean? And once he gets back to New Zealand, like the whole relocation process to come back becomes very expensive. So, he's probably looking for somebody to bite real fast. And I do not blame him.
Greg I696 said, I feel like they cut Bronson because they already have one on the main roster. His name is Otis. They basically fill the same role, unfortunately. And I think that's a very narrow way of looking at you can have more than one big guy. There was a bunch of big guys in the heydays of the 80s and early 90s that drew a bunch of money. I don't agree with that.
Well, yeah, I just want to say, from the perspective of, I do understand, like, if you're talking about like physically, I could see them like be physically compared to one another. In terms of the kind of character they play, not at all. And that mentality that was just presented to us is the way that women were literally thought of throughout the entire like 70s and 80s. You only needed 2 women in any company because they just fought each other, and they like fought each other for like 5 years until they brought in somebody new, so unfortunately, that is a history that we have where we're really short-sighted in the way we look at talent. But I think that they've moved past that.
Yeah. Lastly here, before we get to Stephen Amell from PWInsider.com, we got a bunch of updates about producers, backstage WWE producers. First one up, former WWE Tag Team Champion Rob Conway He's back at the Performance Center. He's working as a guest coach. He previously worked as a guest trainer at the PC in September 2018, and that stint was arranged by Conway's good friend, Randall Orton. Conway was last signed to WWE contract in May 2007, so it looks like Rob Conway might be back down in the mix at the Performance Center in some capacity.
Very interesting. Former NWA World Champion Rob Conway too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that is true. Yes,
and a multiple-time OVW tag team champion. I like, and OVW champion as well. He's somebody who's been in and out of the mix. It's very weird when we think about people who are down there as trainers who never had necessarily this like huge run in WWE, right? Like he was never a top guy. When I think of people who would be beneficial to train from, I like the Shawn Michaels and the Triple H's and all those people come to mind. Rob Conway, not necessarily as much, but he is somebody who knows how to work a crowd. He's fairly skilled. So let's see what he can offer.
It's like every time somebody tells me that Norman Smiley was so great to work with down at the Performance Center, I always like reminded Norman Smiley has been working at the Performance Center for like a long time now. And like, who'd have guessed that? Of all the people to transition out of WCW and find like regular work in a spot in WWE, Norman Smiley. Not knocking the guy. Seems like a really nice guy. I've never met him, never talked to him. Just like, wow, Norman Smiley. Huh. Okay.
I mean, Norman Smiley was a footnote pretty much in WCW to begin with. Like let's wiggle. But I didn't expect him to wiggle into the Performance Center for so long.
Next up on our producer updates, Molly Holly. She's been working as a Raw producer at recent TV tapings. Holly mostly had been working on SmackDown tapings during the tryout period she was under, but now she's working Raw events as of late. So great. I'm happy that Molly Holly is backstage. And that means that because she's on Raw, she's working closely with Nikki Ash, who's obviously kind of doing a revamp of the whole Mighty Molly thing right now.
Seriously, doing a revamp of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Revisiting.
Yeah, it's like the whole mannerisms, that's the same. So anyway, good for Molly, great person. Sean Davari, he's received a lot of praise for his work as a producer since returning to full-time work for the company. Sean Davari, great guy, very smart, happy for him.
Yep. He's one of those people who's been in and out so many times it feels like he can't keep up.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like good for him. There's like him, like Jeff Jarrett, like there's just certain people that can just kind of Conan. They just float around, Sean Davari is one of those guys. Pat Buck, he's taken on additional duties in the talent relations department as of late. Buck, who has also been producing Raw and SmackDown shows, is now working in the bookings of extras and indie talents who are brought in for tapings. This is a position previously held by Drake Wirtz, a.k.a. Drake Younger, who was released from his role as a referee in mid-May and is doing God knows what out there in the world right now. But good for Pat. I know a lot of people that really like Pat Buck a lot. I know that a lot of people did not think Drake did a great job in that role. So definitely a step up. And I was talking to somebody the other day, actually just yesterday, who was talking to me about just like how, because Pat Buck runs Creative Pro Wrestler.
Everybody, like there's so many talent on the independent circuit right now who would tell you that Pat Buck has been instrumental for them. It's an name coming up over and over when in conversation.
Yeah, and you look at the AEW roster right now, and there are a lot of Creative Pro wrestlers over at AEW right now. And so if you're looking for a guy who has an eye for talent, who wants to give opportunities to people to be doing work in WWE, of all of the producer updates here, I think I'm most heartened by the fact that Pat Buck is now he's the door. I don't know if he's a forbidden door, but he's that door between WWE and all the non-WWE. No, the non-forbidden door, Pat Buck. All right, the bidden door. Thank you very much, Paul, for joining me at the top of the show. Thank you to Steve Mel for taking the time to chat with Scott. Everybody go check out Heels. It's going to be great on Stars. And with that, we'll dive into the mailbag at Wink Daily. WINC Daily. That's the account to follow over on Twitter if you want to vote in our daily polls. We currently have 1,157 followers on Twitter. If you go follow us right now, you could be 1158. It's a very special number. It means a lot to me, and that could be you. So go be number 1158 right now if you want to go give us a follow. It means a lot to me personally.
Yesterday, and you guys, I definitely think you should follow us. But Nick, we need to update our pickup line. It's like
I I don't know.
We need to update our pickup line.
Okay. It's my least favorite number, so we need to get past it. So go become 1158 so we can move on to 1159. 1158 sucks. Screw that number.
No, just join us. It's like it's where the party's at for sure. That's how you stay up to date on everything we're doing.
So the poll question today, I love this question. So anyway, WWE released this video yesterday of Baron Corbin. I don't think I could show it. Like, I want to take a moment to show it. Can I show it? Is that legal? Like, it's free video that they put up on their Twitter. I don't want to get us pulled. I won't show it.
I think that we can show it, but I don't want to risk it.
I don't want to risk the biscuit. No. So anyway, go watch this video. All right. It's over on WWE's Twitter account. I guess their TikTok too. Baron Corbin retweeted. It's right at the top of Baron Corbin's Twitter feed right now. And have you watched this video, Paul?
No, because I can't stand this storyline.
Okay. Well, it's like 90 seconds, and it's like a day in the life for him. And he here, I'll read it. I have a recap. So he starts the video saying, "Welcome to another day in my life. After hitchhiking to work, I simply tried to go in and be on time and was sent away by a security guard that I've known for years. And once he made it into the backstage area, he was given a fine for wearing a shirt with a mustard stain on it. He says, I finally get into the building and, oh, look, I'm fined $500 that I don't have for failing dress code." He goes to get this thing washed out. He gets turned away. My favorite part of this is he goes, I went over to catering to get a snack and maybe take something home for later. He's just got this bag and he's shoving bags of chips in, and somebody comes over and takes it away from him. And he's like, I guess you can't do that. So anyway, I laughed my ass off, Paul. I'm sorry. You obviously hate this. You do not look thrilled at all.
It seems like, okay, I'll tell you this much. Like, Corbin certainly seems to be hitting a certain segment of the society, community, viewing audience that likes this. I don't think that I'm in that group. I find it to be, there's something difficult to wrap my head around the fact that being poor is like a gimmick, right? Being like down on your luck is a gimmick, and it's very laughable for these people who are legitimately, if not millionaires, on their way to being millionaires, working for a billionaire. So I think that maybe it's funny to some people. I think that it's not necessarily in the best taste.
And we have some people that have chimed in the comments and have said similar things, right? And I get it, and I don't want to say that I've ever been homeless, but I've been very, very poor at points in my life, right? And I know what it is to not know where next month's rent is going to come from. All right. I look at this and I just see a rags to riches story. It's pretty straightforward for me, right? It's funny because it's like this guy's been such a rich asshole for so long. It's a riches to rags story, and maybe he'll get it back. There's kind of a humanizingness that's going on here with Baron Corbin for me, because he's been so one-dimensional for so long that taking the risk of doing this and showing this other side of him, I think for the long run is going to be really good for him. I mean, I think that what you're saying, Paul, is totally valid, right? Let's laugh at the poors, the homeless. It doesn't come across. It's so kind of unbelievable that I can kind of get into it, because I know that it's I don't know. I get what you're coming from, and a lot of some others are coming from. I just think it's hilarious. I think this guy's really funny.
I also don't want to feel like people to see this and feel like I'm on some soapbox about this, because I'm not. Really what it comes down to is it just doesn't appeal to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that it's intrinsic. I do think that part of it might be in the back, because in the back of my head I'm they're making fun of poor people, really. That's the whole gist of oh my God, isn't it so funny that he doesn't whatever. And I think that part of it is because of the fact that the idea is it's okay to laugh at this individual because he had been a dick before or whatever. But I just, in general, it just doesn't appeal to me. So there's something, if they want it to be a comedy shtick, part of it's sort of missing me.
I think there's going to be a real. I do think there, and I don't want to give WWE too much credit because it is tough to tell a long storyline arc there that has a meaningful payoff. But I think you can rein this in a way where the fans either start to become endeared by this guy and want to see him bounce back, and again humanizes him, right? Gets like people invested in him, or he keeps talking about how he's a desperate man, right? And man, desperate men in movies can be really great plot devices, right? And a guy that is capable of anything because he has nothing to lose. Again, it's just another shade for Corbin. And I do not want to give WWE too much credit that they know exactly how this is going to go. But in my head, there's a couple paths here that don't end terribly, Paul.
Right. And I agree with that. And I think that we saw like actually the beginning of shades of that when, Corbin was willing to like go in and sort of like to try to defeat Drew McIntyre as like a bounty hunter, or like, like a kind of like a paid assassin type of thing. And I think that there are situations that could go very well with this, especially as coming from the background of like, I've never liked Corbin to begin with. I didn't like him when he was the king. I didn't like him before that. I didn't like it, like something about Corbin just doesn't do it for me. So I'm not shocked that his new iteration doesn't do it either.
Dino saying Baron telling Drew that $100,000 will tide him over was hilarious. Yeah. I guess I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't really believe he's like poor. Is that like kind of like $100,000 ask? Like if you're really like broke, you're not asking for $100,000, right? So I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I laughed my ass this video this morning, Paul. And like, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. That's fine.
I'll go watch it and then I'll check back in on social media to see if I like okay, Nick was right. I laughed or.
Well, and I think Dave in here kind of maybe more articulating, as I can't even say the goddamn word, how I feel maybe better. That's why it's funny, because no one liked him before. You're laughing at karma. You're not laughing at poor people. And I think that's probably closer for me. It's like, I'm laughing at a guy who was a snide asshole for a long time that is now suffering, right? It's not like they introduced like, here's homeless Joe, right? Like, and you know what? Hey, Odyssey Jones, I'm sorry. I really hope Vince doesn't hear that and bring you out on Raw is homeless Joe. But presenting a homeless character that people make fun of is one thing. Presenting a character that has been presenting one way for a very long time and giving him a twist where he goes through this period, I do think there's a little difference there.
And again, I wasn't on a soapbox about that.
I'm not saying you are. We're just having
the flip side of that is that every person who ends up on the street, like when you see them, if that's where you're introduced to them, like you may judge them on that, but they all have a backstory.
All right. Well, we got a super chat here that I'm going to read the results. King Rail, Corbin as a hired hitman is perfect. He can work with heels and faces. Yeah. The desperation. I love the idea, a desperate man. A lot you can do with that. So I asked everybody, what do you think of quote poor Baron Corbin? We got over 300 votes here. 50.3% of people love it. 29.6 they're okay with it. 12.2 not a fan. 7.9 hate it. So almost 80 to 20 the people like it to love it. Paul, what's going on with it?
Yeah, I know. I voted for the not a fan, but even then, like that was almost an hour ago. And it was already very, very lopsided in favor of people liking it. So again, one of the things that I said repeatedly on this show with you, my opinion is my opinion. It doesn't make it the right opinion. It's just the way I see it through my eyes. And I respect the fact that obviously there's, a huge number of people who like it. So whatever they're doing right, apparently.
The Bus Cat. I like Baron and his commitment to the character. I just don't like being poor as a gimmick, especially when the owner of the company is a billionaire that has been laying off hundreds of people during a pandemic. That's I guess it's like I put this poll up. I didn't really think about like how deep of a conversation we were about to have here in the mailbag today. This is a kid. What he's doing right now, it's like a piece of art. Everybody's looking at it, kind of interpreting their own thing out of it.
Absolutely.
It is art. It's all art.
Performance is art.
Yeah. B7326. I like it. It's a real story. He's doing it well. Frankly, it may be the second best story in WWE right now, which may say more about the lack of quality in the rest of the stuff they're doing. I'm guessing he's saying Reigns first.
Yep.
And then this. And then somewhere down here is Goldberg and Lashley. Dude, that thing is fart in the wind. I can't even believe it's happening now. Oh, my God.
It's DOA.
Done. Kareem Taylor. Love the clip WWE posted where the man didn't recognize. Oh, yeah, dude, there's this great part where he shows up, the security guard's like, you can't come in here. And he's like, what? I work here. And he's like, you don't work here. You don't look anything like you work here. And he points at the freaking truck. He's like, that's my face on that truck. And the guy looks at me. He's like, you don't look anything like that guy. I don't know. It was very funny. Garofalo Dina, Corbin should win the $1 million title and make it and melt it to make a comma necklace. Like that.
Like Kama the wrestler?
Like comma, he had Undertaker's urn melted down. He turned it into a necklace.
Got it.
I guess
anything to end that $1 million title situation, it's gotta go.
All right. Hushberger, love poor Baron Corbin. Dave in. Poor Baron Corbin is like a top 3 storyline right now. Isa, New York City Demon Diva. I love how committed Corbin is to this.
And I think that the commitment to a character speaks very highly of him as a performer. And I will 100% get behind that because, you know, reminds me of this saying that Tom Pritchard taught Mickey James, as well as dozens of other people. You have to learn to love the taste of shit. You know what I mean? Like that's, you know, you learn to love it because you're going to exist on that for a long time. And if you can turn BS into gold, then it bodes well for you.
Well, I'll read one last comment here from Hushberger. No, wait, that's not it. All right, it's from Charles C. Dowd. For better or worse, this is the most interested I've been in Corbin since his debut. And you know what? Conversation. We're all having a conversation about Baron Corbin right now. You know, and with how buzzy AEW is, like there's so little breaking through in WWE world right now to the mainstream fan. And Corbin has, you know, he's trying his best right now, you know.
Do you remember when one of the headlines on the various sites was that that WWE has trademarked the name Happy Corbin?
Maybe that's it. Maybe he loses his mind and he starts a cult.
Or he just learns to be grateful for the small things.
Yeah, totally. Doing the bull dance, feeling the flow, right? Back to the beginning. That's a Happy Gilmore reference, right? Happy Corbin, Happy Gilmore. See what I did there? All of them right there, like that. See that?
Oh my God, stop it.
You see it? It's great.
Stop that.
The audio people can't see it, but I'm interlocking my fingers. We had a great show here today. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat room. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to wrap up the week. I'll have Christy Olsen. Also on the show tomorrow, we're going to have Bellator's Nick Newell. Nick has a movie that's come out about him called Notorious Nick. I did not really know much at all about Nick before we did this interview. What a fascinating guy this is. He has like half an arm, and he's a professional MMA fighter. And he's really good, right? He's a Bellator.
Okay.
So they made a movie about him and the struggles and like the crazy, like him showing up and telling people I want to be an MMA fighter, and everybody laughs at him. And then he gets in there and he, you know, wipes the floor with people. Really, really inspirational story. And not only that, I asked the PR woman who reached out about the interview. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But like, does he have wrestling ties? He was college roommates with Brian Myers. And so you get to have, he's an avid wrestling fan. So you get to hear this guy's take on a lot of wrestling stuff. You get to hear him talk about going to college with Brian, the work Brian's doing now. And you're going to get to hear his story. And I think it's going to be a really nice way to end the week, Paul. I'm very excited to bring this one to everybody.
Wow. Inspiring.
Yeah. Very inspiring. A great way to wrap it up. Of course, if you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. And the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes live at night, just like this show, on all of the Wrestling Inc. platforms. Check it out and go subscribe to the Wrestling Inc. podcast on, whatever podcast platform you want. And lastly, here, before I throw to Paul, tomorrow night, Replay Lincoln Park, an official press release was put out by Warner Media yesterday announcing this party. It's real. I am doing.
Wow.
Yes, I am hosting this party. It is in conjunction with Warner and AEW. A lot more people know about it today than they did yesterday. It's free to attend. Come on out. They're sending me posters. They're sending me coasters. They're sending me napkins. They're sending me an exclusive prize package that I'll be able to give away to somebody at the bar. So, again, it's free to attend. It starts at 7 o'clock. Replay is a barcade, so it's free arcades and pinball. They have the WrestleMania arcade game. They have the WrestleMania pinball machine. So we're going to do some tournaments heading into Rampage. You can play some games. I'll do some trivia. And after it's all done, you can have a cocktail. We've got some specialty drinks made for the AEW superstars and things. Big party, Paul. Big party.
I wish I was going to be there.
Yeah, well, hey, it sounds like I'm going to be doing more. I think Replay's already signed off on me doing a Dynamite party next week now. So the hope is, knock on wood, we're going to make Replay a weekly destination for Chicago fans to watch Dynamite every week, which I think is
awesome.
Love it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's not done yet. It's just an idea, but hopefully it becomes something. So, Paul, what do you want to plug, promote, put over here to wrap up the show today?
Wow, so much stuff going on. I'm very blessed right now because the next 3 weekends are just wrestling. This weekend, all over Northern California with East Bay Pro Wrestling and Supreme Pro Wrestling with my tag team, Money, Power, Respect. We're going to be hitting all of these locations. And then we're getting ready very closely to head into NWA Empower, NWA 73 in St. Louis. And it was just announced yesterday that I'm the official host of Effie's Big Gay Brunch.
I saw that, yes.
Coming to Chicago on September 5th. More cowbell. Nick, I expect to see you there, man.
Oh, I'll be there. I think Liz is coming with me.
Excellent.
So we'll be there. I'm very excited about it. Yeah, a lot of stuff popping right now in the world of pro wrestling and Wrestling Inc. Stick around for the ride. We're 2 minutes away from, or now 1 minute away from Stephen Amell's conversation with Scott debuting on the Wrestling YouTube channel. So bounce out of this, bounce over to that. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm at Nick_Houseman over on Twitter. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.